Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back in for another episode of Under Review. This is episode 128. We're coming at you live.
We got another doozy inbound. It has been pretty quiet on the NFL front since we last spoke, so we've got an interesting one for you.
Yeah, in terms of the sports world in general, a lot's happened this past week. I feel like we should briefly mention a couple of those things that happened. I'll go stat of the week brought to you by Andrews Logistics. This isn't even anything big that happened, but, well, it's big. It's big to some people like me. Scotty Scheffler won his 6th PGA event this year in winning the Travelers Championship. He's only the 4th player in history to win 6 PGA events in 1 year. And he did them all before the month of July. And he's the first guy to win 6 before the month of July. So he's been rolling. He's world number 1 right now. Just had to give him his flowers because he's a Dallas boy. And he's my guy, Scotty Scheffler.
Ripping bombs all year long.
That's what he does.
Coming for lucky number 7, I guess, because that's what's next after 6, you know?
I know. We're hoping.
So this is an interesting player of the week because I don't really know if you can call it player of the week because this is not a great achievement, but It's just something notable. So this week, actually, the Oilers lost in the Stanley Cup final, and so with that, Corey Perry now has lost 4 of the last 5 Stanley Cups with 4 different teams. So 4 of the last 5 he's been in, and with all 4 of those, he lost with a different team.
So that's loser of the week.
That's a pretty awful stat.
Yeah.
He's definitely set apart in that.
You don't want to sign him, basically, is what you're saying.
He's just, He's been on some deep
great at second
runs,
place,
unfortunately, but couldn't get the job done.
He's a second place merchant. You know, what can you say? So those are 2 of the big things. Obviously, we need to just mention Tennessee won the college men's baseball World Series. Congrats to them. Obviously, as Aggie fans, I wasn't even surprised at all by the outcome of A&M losing in the finals. What it came down to, as we'll briefly talk about, it's not what this episode's about. What it came down to, Tennessee, they've been cooking for a while now. Number 1 this year. They've been rolling over everyone they've played. And really, the thing is, we lost a ton of guys. Tennessee came in healthy and very deep into the College World Series, and that eventually hurt us, not having our best player.
They had better pitching depth, starting pitcher-wise. So A&M would have had to have won it Sunday, I think.
Yeah, we blew it yesterday, and tonight I didn't see any chance of us winning. Don't let the score fool you. It was not a close game by any means. So, anyways, congrats to Tennessee. A&M though, you make it this far, you get a lot of recruits. Maybe we'll see them back next year. You never know.
You get hungry. You got a taste for what it's like, and so now you come back for the whole thing.
I'm a Cowboys fan, and that's just the mindset I have. My team gets somewhere, and I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna win it, because up until last year with the Rangers winning the World Series, that's how it's been all my life. The Mavs let us down, the Stars let us down, Aggies let us down. The Cowboys do it every year. It's just I don't know. A&M and Dallas teams, they just seem to be on the same page. So that's unfortunate for all of us, though. It is.
It really is. So this episode, we're going to be talking about – so this is an interesting one. Talking a little bit – talking quarterbacks here.
It's a history lesson.
More importantly, the 2021 draft class, more specifically, the quarterbacks.
The quarterbacks, because that's all we care about in the drafts. Let's be real. That's all anyone cares about. That's why this year's draft got a lot of views, because there were a lot of quarterbacks. And I think, there's some comparisons you can make from 2021 and this year's draft. But if you remember 2021, there were 5 quarterbacks that were projected to go pretty early, and they did. in the first round of the draft. And, when you're drafting a quarterback, that in the first round, you're expecting them to be your franchise guy at some point, the leader of the team for, hopefully the next decade or two. And these guys, we'll talk about how they turned out.
Well, because that year was a 1-2-3. It was Lawrence, Lance, it was Lawrence, Wilson, and then Lance. Mm-hmm. So Trevor Lawrence went to the Jags, Zach Wilson went to the Jets, and then Trey Lance went to the 49ers. The Trey Lance one was kind of surprising because it was one of those things where I don't know.
North Dakota State.
It didn't seem like it was going to be anything that worked. He battled some injuries very early on in his career, so he was never really given a fair shot, but I didn't see the talent there to begin with.
I don't think we'd started the show yet. No, we definitely hadn't started the show yet. But if we had been doing the show around this time, Nick and I would have told you about all 5 of these guys, what we said about a lot of the guys in this year's draft, okay? Let's just go through the 5 quarterbacks. Obviously, Nick said Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. Trevor Lawrence to the Jags, Zach Wilson to the Jets, Trey Lance to the Niners. Justin Fields went to the Bears, and Mac Jones to the Patriots, okay? Let's go through each guy. Trevor Lawrence, what did he do at Clemson?
I mean, he got carried.
He got carried. And
he was a part of a super team.
Yeah, and, he was good in his role of being surrounded by amazing players because they were winning national championships before he got there, got some good recruits. And then Zach Wilson, what was it, his pro day?
Went to BYU. Everyone was wild by his pro day when he was wearing no pads. He was in a perfectly AC'd indoor practice field, no defenders on him, throwing a 1 receiver. So I wasn't impressed.
I'm normally pretty good when I'm just throwing the ball to one person.
He was just playing catch.
That's
literally all he was doing. He was playing catch.
I love playing catch.
And everyone was wild by this kid.
So the Jets decided that he was their future based on that 170-yard throw in a practice facility with nobody rushing him. Trey Lance played 1 season for North Dakota State.
No clue what they saw there. No clue what they saw.
But the Niners gave up a ton of picks and collateral to trade up and get Trey Lance. They thought he was their future. Justin Fields, obviously everyone's still riding the hype train on Justin Fields right now. What did he do when he went to Chicago?
Nothing, and then they didn't even want him in the end.
No. And what did he do at Ohio State? Again, nothing. So him and Trevor Lawrence, similar. They just had good receivers, and so made him look pretty good. And then Mac Jones, same situation. Alabama always had good recruits. From the start, Mac Jones was never going to be that good, okay? That wasn't even a surprise.
He was just carried at Bama, and then obviously none of that translated. He did go to a Patriots team that was in shambles, but he didn't have anything really to offer.
He got benched for Bailey Zappi. Bailey Zip on the ball Zappi.
3 times this past season. He's not the guy. He was never the guy. Me and Joseph, like Joseph said, if this episode had come out 3 years ago, whenever this was happening, we would have told you the same thing. Weak quarterback class. They're gonna they're gonna draft high and be busts, all of them.
Well, and that's the thing is the media built these guys up, which is fine, but you can't just based on their weapons in college, they're not going when they get drafted this high, they're not going to teams with that many weapons. Now, Trey Lance went to a good 49ers team, but he got hurt, and then he was just never good in their offensive scheme. They took Brock Purdy and made him amazing. So Trevor Lance was just a complete whiff by the Niners organization. But now we look at this year's draft.
He's a Dallas Cowboy.
He is a Dallas Cowboy, which hopefully we're doing something.
Which doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May to the Patriots. And you know what Drake May reminds me a lot of, which we said when he got drafted? Another Mac Jones. Now, he was not carried by weapons, so he probably has got some more raw talent, possibly. But he does seem like another Mac Jones. You've got J.J. McCarthy, Michigan. He was carried to a national championship. Good kid, but he was carried. I mean, he never threw the ball. Like when you see J.J. McCarthy like draw back to throw, you were just surprised that they didn't hand the ball off, you know? And Michael Penix Jr., who, you know,
Is like 30.
everyone was shocked at the Falcons. So we've already touched on that. And then last quarterback this year, want to touch on is
Jane
Bo
Daniels.
Nix. I said Jane Daniels, but Bo Nix.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have
again,
just similarities.
Another 30-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, Bo Nix and Penix are kind of the same. They're older, which means their runway might not be as long. Also, if it takes you 6 years in college to prove that you should go pro, I don't know.
Because at that point, you're playing against 19 and 20-year-old kids.
Yeah, so obviously you're going to ball out because you're a man playing amongst boys. But so we'll see. I don't think either one of them. I feel like Penix could be good, maybe, but he's in a terrible situation where they're not really going to play him right now. So he will be like 35 by the time he gets a starting job somewhere, and it probably won't be Atlanta. But we've got two very similar drafts.
Jaden Williams is going to get it, or Jaden Daniels, sorry. He's going to get injured for sure. You see in his college highlights whenever he's, scrambling out of the pocket and he's rushing, he gets ragdolled 5 yards the other way. So the same thing's going to happen, plus a few broken bones. So
yeah, he needs to put on more muscle. I mean, he's a smaller quarterback right now.
He's a twig.
And obviously, I mean, look, when Trevor Lawrence came out of Clemson, everyone said he's the chosen one. Now, like we said last week, he robbed $275 million from the Jags, but they have not done anything in Jacksonville. He has not done anything. And in my opinion, they should not have signed him to a big extension. And now we've got Caleb Williams coming out of USC, another guy who wasn't even carried. He just didn't do anything for USC. Every year, they kept saying he might be the greatest college quarterback of all time. And if you're the greatest of something of all time, you've got to at least win one championship, let alone at least try to make it there. And he never did. So
never even sniffed a college playoff.
Yeah. And so
spot.
They said Trevor Lawrence might be the greatest college quarterback of all time. They said that about Caleb Williams. And he went to a Bears team that's actually pretty loaded right now. At least Trevor went to a pretty awful Jags team. I mean, Caleb
it's
Williams
better
is going
than
to a pretty
when
good
Justin
situation.
Fields went to the Bears a couple years ago. He's at least in a decent situation. They bulked up the wide receiver room, so he at least has some offensive weapons. Obviously, the offensive line's not there. He's going to get sacked 12 times a game, but he does have enough to where he could do something with it if he's actually a good quarterback.
I just think you see through these two drafts that it's so hard to draft the right quarterback. I mean, there's so many. You just can't. You have no idea. Brock Purdy's a prime example. Last pick of the draft ended up being like the best quarterback out of that draft. Mr. Irrelevant picked 292, and he made it to a Super Bowl last year. It's really about. It's a big like head coach and situation thing too. Just a lot of pieces have to line up really perfectly for these guys to be successful. But the media just, force feeds it down our throats.
They pick who they think is going to be good, and they refuse to actually look at stats and gameplay and game film.
Caleb Williams had a throw to Odunze. It was like a 10-yard slant with no defenders again. That just went viral like a couple weeks ago. It's like, oh, Caleb and Rome Odunze like are already connecting. It's like, I could hit that throw. Like anyone could throw that. I mean, it's just a slant. Like just hit.
It's in practice. He got no pressure, no defenders.
And we're about to, just like Justin Fields. Justin Fields never won more than 5 games in Chicago. Never won more than 5 stinking games. And every week we are seeing a new Justin Fields highlight. It's like, yeah, Chicago got rid of him. You know why? Because he couldn't win. So
I mean, if you're not good enough for Chicago,
exactly.
yikes, that's saying something. I mean,
And so
I'd be pretty ashamed.
Because as of right now, the QB first round class of 2021 is going down as one of the biggest busts that the draft has seen quarterback wise so far. Just all the promising talent coming out of all those
Because
schools
not one of
that
those
didn't go anywhere,
teams got a franchise guy.
except for the Jags.
Trevor Lawrence is the only one
it.
that stuck around, but he's not worth it.
No.
I mean, they're going to make him the franchise guy.
He's the only one
because
still on the
like it.
team. He's the only one still on the team that drafted him. And so, in my opinion, as I'm sure you would agree, there's this very good chance that it happens again with the 2024 draft as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We spoke on it before that whenever the actual draft was happening that we thought it was a little weak.
Yeah.
It was a wide receiver heavy
Now,
draft.
I think the wide receivers that came out of this draft are going to be pretty good. Absolutely. But I don't know about the quarterbacks.
Well, here's like to end our shows on Under Review. I brought you a quote from the Ricky Bobby, and he said,
Yeah,
"You ain't first, you're last." And that's the truth.
that is the truth. That's what the Aggies found out tonight, this week. We thank y'all for tuning in this week, and we will see you next week with another episode of Under Review.